And good afternoon. It is here. Oh, that spring video just gets you all set. And it's a whole lot better than what you see if you look out the window right now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is opening day. It's an unofficial holiday, and we appreciate you taking time to join us as we get you right on set for first pitch and right on through the day. It's a special opening day right here on Fox Local. Tim Van Voorn inside the climate-controlled Fox 6 studios. Joining me from less ideal conditions, Brandon Cruz, Lily's out at American Family Field. And when I say out, you are outside American Family Field. It's part of the story today. We're not going to dwell on it, Brandon and Lily, but if you were going to give us a quick summation on the weather, you would say what, Brandon? You first.
It's perfect for baseball, right, Lily? No. It's pretty miserable out here. I mean, but that's the great thing about American Family Field. You have the roof. Once you get inside, it feels like it's baseball, and you don't have any sense of what's going on outside in terms of the wind, the rain, the cold. But standing out here right now, I want this hour to kind of move along.
Yeah, me too. I would say this. It's cold, it's windy, and it's rainy, very rainy, but that didn't stop people from tailgating.
No.
So, you know, the Brewers fans that were out here earlier in the day, it wasn't terrible in the morning, but it's since gotten a little bit worse. So I'm glad that we have a covering here. But like Brandon said, I'm very glad that AmFam Field has a roof. It is used for this specific reason. And, you know, once the game begins, I think it'll be a little bit nicer for us.
For sure.
Indeed, no question about it. All right, Brandon, Lily, we're going to go here for about an hour. I know you guys have been at the ballpark. Lily, you've been out there early today. Brandon, you've been out there for a while, and you'll be there right on through the ballgame. So we have a lot to talk about from a lot of different angles. But the Brewers started this season in New York. Their first game was postponed because of bad weather. There's no roof at Citi Field. But then they played 3 times against the New York Mets, and they beat the New York Mets 3 times. So how much did that opening series show you? Lily, you first.
I think it showed that this is a team that, despite there being a lot of new on the squad, I think this is a team that's very determined. You know, guys talked earlier today about they like the athleticism of the team. They like the new kind of brand of Brewers baseball that they're playing. They're playing really fast. You know, they're stealing bases. They're playing a little bit differently under manager Pat Murphy. So I like just the style of play, and we saw it debuted against the Mets. So that's kind of what I like about it. And obviously starting off the season with a series sweep, you know, first time doing that since 2018, doesn't hurt either.
No, and what I like about this, too, is, Tim, you're seeing all kinds of different approaches in the sense of you're seeing them being aggressive when it comes to their offense. Their defense has been stellar, and that's something we expected. And then their starting pitching has been very good, and that to me was going to be the biggest question. We know what Freddie Peralta was going to bring, and him being the ace of this staff makes perfect sense. But everybody else after that was kind of a question mark. How would DL Hall do? He did well. How would Colin Ray do? He picked up where he left off last year. And then the bullpen has filled in nicely, too. So right now they're playing very good complementary baseball, and I think they brought this energy into this season that they're hoping to ride as long as possible.
Terrific points by both of you, and of course defense and pitching has been the Brewer formula for so many seasons of late that it's been a successful formula, and this year we'll see how that goes. But for the first time in a while, we have a real splash prospect to watch in Milwaukee, and that's Jackson Chourio. Got all this money in the offseason, and there was still kind of a curiosity factor for him, and there probably will be all season, but he was in the lineup right from opening day. He's 20 years old. He did not seem intimidated in his first weekend in the Big Apple. You're talking about 5 hits and a dozen at bats. Brandon, you've known this name and this player. He's been on the come for the last couple of seasons. What did you think of his initial impression, and does it project in any way for the upcoming season?
You'd hope that it will. I mean, I think like every rookie, there's going to be ups and downs, just like every veteran. But the one thing that he did is he settled right in. And, you know, even Pat Murphy was talking about it after their last game on Sunday about how he didn't have the greatest spring, yet he proved that he belongs at this level, that he's ready for this level, and he enjoys the moment. And the thing that he does, too, is he just settles in. He doesn't seem nervous. He doesn't feel like that the stadium or the situation is too big, and he proves that he's got such natural ability that instead of starting off in Nashville, he deserves to be up here on the big team. And I think that was the big question mark. Was he going to be ready for the moment? And he has shown that he has. And I mean, he's stealing bases, he's sliding and making catches, he's hitting the ball very well, as you mentioned, with the 5 hits. So he's showing it all there. And I think all that he has to figure out now is how does he handle a slump if he goes through one, because almost every player will, and that will be the big challenge that he hasn't had to face in his professional career yet.
No question, something to watch for sure. Lily had mentioned earlier about the stealing bases. There's speed with Jackson Churio's game, a lot to take advantage of and watch and evaluate for Brewer fans coming up this summer. Speaking of Brewer fans, we're here on Fox Local. It's a special hour-long celebration. It's for you, to be honest with you, if you're getting into the ballpark, if you're somewhere else and you're getting set for this opening day game, and you're getting set for this season. So we have a Fox 6 Blitz Insta Poll, a Fox Local Insta Poll for you. You can go directly to our question right now by scanning the QR code on the screen, or you can go to fox6now.com. The same questions there. We invite your participation. Kind of curious to see where you're sitting on this question today. Where will the Brewers finish in the NL Central this season? And right now, 100% of the votes are kind of low, but we'll see what's going to turn out here. And that's kind of a twofold question, or two-pronged question, because it asks you how you think the Brewers are going to do, but maybe how some of these other teams are going to do. Craig Counsell in Chicago, the Cardinals, who've revamped their roster, which was really aging last year. Pittsburgh, which got off to a good start. The Reds, who have a lot of prospects. So it's an interesting question there. Look forward to hearing from him. And the man who's going to take them through all this is Pat Murphy. We're going to hear from the new Brewers manager, and then we'll get the responses from Brandon and Lily about their impressions of what he had to say today. And both of them have known Murphy for several years now, so it's a chance to kind of evaluate what his body of work has done to get him to this point and what we think he'll be as a manager. So first off, we'll listen to a guy who's pretty gregarious behind the microphone this morning, the Brewers manager, Pat Murphy.
Murph, after 6 weeks, 7 weeks in Phoenix and then 3 days in New York where a lot went on, what is the personality of your club, and how is it different maybe from the clubs of the last couple of years, if at all?
Yeah, I don't even want to go down that road, to be honest with you. I have no disrespect for your first question back. It's kind of a question, to be honest with you. Got to shake him up a little to let him know he's back on the job, right? Question. Personality of the team. We've played 3 freaking games. There's no...
You had 2 months down there to sort of learn about the crew.
Yeah, I'm still learning. Still learning. You know, you can't coast uphill. We got an uphill battle. We got a long journey in front of us. Spring training had a lot of good parts to it. First weekend had a lot of good parts to it. A lot of not so good. So what we're evaluating, what we're going by, we're still developing our personality. Yeah, I don't know what's different. I'm not even thinking in those terms. I'm thinking kind of like just kind of this little window here. Got a ball game at 3. It's kind of what I'm. Question.
Get used to it.
We'll go to Todd. Perhaps he has a good question.
Or I think one of the things that we can.
I think we can hear you.
All right, there you
For
go.
the folks at home.
One of the things we can take away, at least from the first 3 games, is the aggressiveness, and we saw that in spring training. A lot of stolen bases, looking to take the extra base. Is this something that we can look forward to the rest of the season? And does everybody have the green light on this team to run, basically?
No, everybody doesn't have the green light, and I could name some names if you'd like me to, or you could just kind of watch them run and then go, I bet he doesn't have the green light. Hoskins, no green light. Gary might surprise you. Anyway, question about aggressiveness, it's just opportunity. if there's opportunity talked about, get them used to running, get them understanding. Like a lot of these baseball players in the last 5 years have not been used to running. So spring training became a time that we're going to get them out there and run. And regardless of the outcome, those first games there, you guys are all kind of wondering what we were doing, but there was a little bit of a method to it. And, we got a high-end base running coach in Q that, keeps their awareness heightened on a daily basis and, does a great job getting the most out of them. And I thought you'd see some of that. Some days we won't steal a base, but the threat of the steal will impact the game.
Kurt?
Murph, with Churio, from the beginning of spring trying to make a camp to making the team to those first 3 games in New York, how have you seen him handle the last few months with the expectations on him?
I think, it kind of seems to me like when the lights went on, he kind of moved different. It seemed different, like I'm looking at this guy play the outfield early in spring training thinking, hey, do we got the wrong guy? Did somebody show up in his place? It didn't look like the same outfielder. Now he just looks way, way more comfortable. Now there's a lot more to learning the outfield play for a 20-year-old, but the way he moved to the ball and the way his confidence in catching the ball was tremendous.
Sophia?
Murph, just considering the youth of the team and all of the turnover, for them to have a good series in New York, individually and as a team and kind of in all phases, what do you think that does just from a confidence standpoint moving forward?
Well, I think that it never hurts to do that on all fronts, win, that is. But again, they're young, so then immediately you worry about, or not worry, but immediately your concern goes to, you can't coast uphill. We've got an uphill battle, and let's not pretend we don't. And, you got to be ready to get after it again. So sometimes they need to maybe not feel the whip, they need to hear the whip,
Go to Steve in the middle.
Just from the way Hoskins played that last week, and there's certainly no signs of rust or anything after missing last year, just what did you kind of see from him this spring that maybe gave you confidence he could have this kind of early impact even after such a long layoff?
Like when you know the player and you know the person, you just believe like this guy has a maturity. No wonder he's produced like this. Now, is there still rust? Well, game 3 in New York, he left, a small village on base, and so you're going to see some of that, I think, throughout it. And I think he'll get a few more DH games because, we still want to make sure that he's off his legs as much as possible and plays the whole season.
Andrew Wagner, middle third row.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Back to Churio for a second. Is the process and progress just as important as the production with a young player like that? He's going to have down points during the season, of course.
Yeah, I think it is. Not giving him too much, in terms of like feedback, letting him realize, hey, I belong, and then at the same time, a couple little things like pitch selection or, unnecessary decisions he might have made. Like those are the things to pick out, like 1 or 2 at a time. But yeah, and try to explain to him what's going to make him sustain success. Those rollover ground ball, swinging bunts. He's not trying to do that. But what he's trying to do doesn't produce a good outcome either. He just happens to be fast enough to beat those out. But if he keeps doing that, swings over the top and it hits a full side ground ball, he's going to be out most of the time. So the process there will have to be emphasized so he doesn't do that kind of stuff.
Tom?
Murph, on a sentimental note, just simply, what do you love about opening day? Just this day, and you had one on Friday, obviously, but the home opener. Is there anything that sticks out about what you love about this day?
Yeah, I mean, when I see my kids and And last weekend I saw my grandkids. That's what it get. That's what gets me about any time I'm in great situations. You know what I mean? Anytime I'm in an environment that's special, then that's what I think about. But I keep thinking, like, it doesn't matter what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? It matters what those players are feeling.
Up top, right, Craig Deshawn.
Hey, Murph. What's it meant to you to have most of this coaching staff slide over to this role with you? You always, kind of deflect everything to the players and whatnot. How much of that is important to you transitioning over?
I think it's really key. Just the whole transition of when you lose someone like we did, you on our coaching staff, everybody coming back and kind of know their strengths and weaknesses, and it's been a key. It's a real key to have those guys, and they've been incredible. They really have, and I think they will be going forward. We're really in it. They're all in it for the right reasons, and they all pretty much are happy where they're at. You know what I mean? Obviously, everybody wants to move on and get more, but I think this staff realizes that, hey, let's put our head down and help these guys climb this mountain.
Go back to Adam. Please do better this time.
Murph, in your starting rotation, you have some guys coming back from injury, a couple guys coming off bullpen seasons. What are the challenges in managing that group and keeping the bullpen in a good place? And related to that, could you give us the latest on where Wade Miley stands after yesterday or the last couple of days?
Yeah. The starting pitching is a work in progress. It's something that we will continuously try to build on. We hope we can get guys to 5 and 6 innings, and we hope we can get 5 guys that keep going out there every time. Great sign with Colin Ray doing what he did. I took DL Hall out early, one would say, for long-term reasons. He was quite upset about it, which didn't bother me at all. And now these last 2 guys, Junis has been in the pen, and Joe hasn't. When's the last time he started a Major League game, Joe Ross?
2021, August.
And then before that? Should know this kind of shit.
I know that's the last time he started.
No, but you should know this. He's the guy in our starting rotation. You don't even know his history.
I have it in the notes.
I know that he was 6-3 in Eugene in 2011. That's how sick I am. Anyways, what were we talking about? Starting rotation. Yeah, it's going to be a work in progress, but we've got great depth, and we're going to make it happen somehow. So I'm excited about the guys, and I hope they continue to grow. Wade will be fine. I think he came out of yesterday, felt good, and I don't know exactly when he's going to be back, but I know he'll have a rehab start coming up here. Whether or not we give him the second rehab start is based on how he does and how he feels coming out of that.
Is that the next step, though? A start somewhere?
Yep.
You know how many pitches yesterday?
Well, he was trying to sneak extra ones in, but it was 2 up and downs. I think it was close to 40.
Go to Todd.
Murph, we see the physical changes in Bryce, just the weight that he's added and the strength that he's put on. Can you talk about just where else you've seen growth in his game overall? Obviously, he's off to a really good start this season, and he's going to be one of your more important guys on the team this year.
Yeah, I mean, what he did last year, he hung in there, and he was an elite defender. Well, he's brought that back and then some. it's hard to get him off the field. He's so good in the middle. He gets to so many balls nobody gets to. And his accuracy and ability to keep it in the glove is tremendous. So then he puts on the weight, and now he is working towards becoming a better offensive player. And still not there yet, but obviously he's way more confident and knows that he belongs. So when that happens, that's an awesome thing, man. That's an awesome thing to watch. Standing, all we're doing is watching, and you see it just go. It's like that first time, I guess, you see a little green coming out of the dirt. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just a beautiful thing.
He's one of the guys that's got the green light on the bases, I would assume, right?
No, we have to tell him when to go.
Take a couple more. Jack, middle.
You
alluded
just
to
playing favorites here, Mike? You just play favorites?
No.
Huh?
Wherever I see
You kind of do.
raising their hand.
Raise your hand if you think Mike plays favorites. Mike, look. Jesus. We got a way better way to do this. If you guys want to do this a better way, we can eliminate Mike. You could be busy, Mike, doing other things. What we got? Who's up?
Jack.
One of his favorites.
You alluded to DL's first start in New York over the weekend. It seemed like there was a mix of good and bad in that outing. It seemed like there were a couple times he really snapped off some good pitches and was able to get the outs. Other times where he got ahead and couldn't execute or just couldn't hit the right spot that William was setting up for. Is that all part of just the learning process for a young starter, just learning how to put that together?
This kid has got dynamite stuff, but it didn't show the other day, you know. And that's a combination of a lot of things. But we can always just like revert back to like the mechanics and then revert back to, you know, nervousness of his first outing. All that. The bottom line is he got through it. He gave us 4 innings against a very formidable lineup. I don't know if you look at the first 7 guys in that lineup. It's pretty darn good. They're either all-stars, you know, or going to be all-stars, you know what I mean? The Alvarez kid's swinging as good as anybody. Beatty obviously did damage. You know, that's a good lineup, and he navigated. He bobbed and weaved through it. Wasn't his best work, but he got through it. That should be the takeaway. Now, he's got to get to work on command. He's got to get to work on sharpening everything he has. If you try to force velocity at this time of the year, it could lead to some other issues. So we're trying to just get him to be consistent and understand what makes him a good pitcher. Then when his stuff comes, wow, you know, Yelich will take notice.
One more for Hunter.
Yelich, you're going to get part of this. This is really, Mike does a whole job of, you know, orchestrating this thing really bad.
That checks out.
You know what I mean?
Just the shoes,
Yeah. And then he just picks his favorites. There's people here. One woman in the back's got her hand up. She shouldn't even get considered.
Did you have your hand up? Lily, you had your hand up? I'm sorry. We'll end with Lily.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead, Hunter.
See, now there's this panic move right here. She forgot her question.
All right.
Pat, quick question over here before.
Oh, yeah.
What have you seen from Jacob Judas throughout the spring, and then what can we expect, to see from him as a starter today and beyond?
Yeah, Junis is he's experienced. He's a person who knows what he's doing out there. He hadn't pitched in a while. He's coming off a little bit of a scratchy shoulder, so really hasn't pitched in a game in a while. But he understands how to pitch. He understands how to navigate. So I think you'll see a pretty consistent guy out there. Doesn't say much, but he was pretty consistent in spring training.
And Lily.
Hey, Murph.
Sorry about Mike's rudeness.
All good. Just about the coaching staff, I was going to ask about Ricky. Just how have you kind of seen him embrace the new role this year of spring training to now, and what's the rapport been like between you guys?
Yeah, Ricky's been incredible. He's just a great presence. I keep saying that. He wants to do everything. He wants to learn everything, get involved in everything right away. And he doesn't realize the impact he's having already, just being around. And he's all in, 100% in, just like probably when he played. he's all in. It's been great.
Pat Murphy, the manager of the Brewers, on his opening day press conference, I guess you'd have to say, first time around for this. Certainly ending on a high note. Gets a question from Lily Zhao, so there you go. All good stuff. Lily Zhao, Brandon Cruz out at the ballpark, Tim Van Voort here in studio, and you're watching Fox Local, a special opening day celebration getting you set for the first pitch out at American Family Field. I'll pop it out to you guys and ask you a little bit about Murphy. For me, when you hear him in an extended setting like that, you see his college background. He coached in college at Notre Dame and Arizona State. Even whether it's the banter, whether it's almost the educating, and certainly the information about his many players. To me, it's a little different style than you sometimes see at the major league level. What did you guys think, Brandon?
Well, I think you're exactly right. You heard him talk about knowing when one of his starters pitched last, and he goes, well, he was 6-3 in Eugene in 2011. I mean, that detail there shows you exactly how much he knows of what his guys have done throughout their careers and where they did it and probably who they did it against. And when you talk about the ease of a college coach compared to most major league managers, that's the thing you get with him. That's Pat Murphy, period. He's just a guy that's going to tell you what he thinks, how he thinks. He'll come back at you with a question if he has a question about what you're asking and wants to know maybe what you think. So it is a nice give and take, and I assume that that's how it's got to be in that clubhouse with his players. I have a big feeling that he's a guy that wants it a certain way, but he listens and then maybe asks questions, and there's a give and take there, and then they come to an answer. But it is Pat Murphy's way, as you saw in that news conference, especially with the Brewers media relations guy, giving him a hard time. But at the same time, I think that's kind of a learning lesson for Mike Vassallo. So we'll see how this starts to unfold on a daily basis when they play each day. But overall, Tim, I find it very engaging and very open to a discussion as opposed to just a question and answer period.
Lily, how about you? You were part of it today.
You know, the players were asked about kind of his managing style versus Craig Counsell, and Christian Yelich, Rhys Hoskins did talk about that as well, so we'll hear from that coming up later in the show. But, you know, he's really going to speak his mind, right? I think Brandon kind of talked about it best in terms of if he's got a question or he's kind of not sure what you're asking, he'll kind of go back and forth with you. And so that's just kind of his style. It's a dry humor. You have to kind of get used to it. A very different managing approach, I would say, you know, compared to Craig Counsell in the past. So the players have responded to it. They like kind of, you know, his different kind of style, and they're resonating with it. And again, he's been with the organization for so long, so they know Pat Murphy, they know his personality. But for those new guys coming in, they're fresh with him. But I think getting some spring training action in with him, and you know, these last couple of games, they're getting to know him more. So that's just Pat Murphy, dry humor and a lot of laughs.
You were the first person to mention Craig Counsell today on our show here, and also from the press conference there. Pat Murphy did not use his name. Brandon, you know, how has this transition gone? Obviously, Craig Counsell was here, was very successful as a manager, but is now managing maybe the team's biggest rival.
I think it's gone very smoothly. I still think that, you know, Craig Counsell's presence still does kind of hang over this club, at least at this point. And I know it did in spring training as guys were transitioning into the Pat Murphy style and what he was looking for. And the change isn't too great. The personalities are very different, even though they have been with each other for so long. In fact, as we've talked about before, Pat Murphy being Craig Counsell's college coach at Notre Dame. But I think overall this is now evolving into the Pat Murphy era. We're not going to be talking about Craig Counsell very much until early May when they face each other in Wrigley, and then late May when they face each other here. But the thing that to me is interesting is people still want to see what it's like with Pat Murphy on the bench. And over the weekend in New York, we did see what it's like. More aggressive running the bases. I think that was one of the telltale signs. And you heard the questions in there about, does everybody have a green light to run? He said, no, Rhys Hoskins doesn't. But everybody else, you know, all that. So to me, what you're seeing there is now a different style, and then you're seeing that different personality. Craig Counsell was very buttoned down, very on point with everything. Wasn't necessarily a guy that was going to give and take with you too much. His sense of humor not as broad as Pat Murphy, as we see when we do the say what. You know, he's been registered as a funny guy. He is a very funny man, and I think what his humor and his ability to connect in that way is a much different thing that we've seen with Craig Counsell, and I think that is going to be something that that takes over very, very soon here now that we're getting opening day out of the way.
Interesting transition, to be sure. The page not completely turned, but the season has started here under the direction of Pat Murphy. You're exactly right. And the rules have changed a little bit in Major League Baseball, too. We are seeing more of those stolen base opportunities. So there's a lot to kind of process as we all get into the baseball season, even if it's not baseball weather out there. This is a special on Fox Local as we get set for the first pitch. We are incorporating our Instapoll feature, though, and we want to hear from you. So you can go to fox6now.com or you can scan the QR code that's right there on your screen. And we're asking, where do you think the Brewers will finish this season in the NL Central? That, of course, also factors in Craig Counsell's Chicago Cubs and the Cardinals and the Pirates and the Reds. And some people right now are pretty optimistic about the Brewers, saying first place. That's our majority vote right now. So we're eager to hear from you. We'll have the answers as we continue on this special going up till 2:30. And, of course, the game gets going after 3 o'clock today out at American Family Field. Rhys Hoskins' name has been mentioned a bit. He's the big offseason acquisition. He had a nice opening weekend in New York. And, of course, Christian Yelich is back again this year in Milwaukee, and he had a nice opening weekend in New York. They were together this morning at their press conference, and let's take a listen.
Christian, you've been around long enough that this club has been in different spots going into different seasons, where some years it is like World Series or bust, and other years maybe it's, hey, we have some questions and we could be pretty good if this happens and that happens. Where's this club on that spectrum?
I mean, I think our expectation's always to win. I think that's been pretty evident over the years. We've had a lot of talent come through the room and a lot of successful teams, but each year's been its own year. It's looked different every year. I think that every season that we go into, we always hear the noise about what are the Brewers going to be, or what's this season going to look like? Are you rebuilding? Are you competing? And I think we're always trying to win. I think that's kind of been established over the years. We have a lot of young guys this year that are kind of getting their first taste of the big leagues, but they're all really talented players, and it's been fun watching them for the first few days this year. And we'll just see how it shapes up. You just play out the season and kind of evaluate it as it goes.
Bert, on the right.
Rhys, the ovation from the crowd, or the reception from the crowd to receive today, do you expect it to be a little different than over the weekend?
Yeah, just a little bit. Hopefully it's a good one. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what it's like to play here as a home player. I've been here a few times as a visitor, and it's been a pretty consistent crowd. They enjoy their baseball. They like good baseball. But I think at the end of the day, they're just rooting for us to win, do what we can to win. So just like every other home opener, I'm as excited to see what the crowd is like.
Go to Dom on the left.
Rhys, everything aside from what went down over the weekend, baseball-wise, how do you feel getting back to it 3 games down, and where do you feel you stand right now health-wise and getting, maybe the baseball eyes back, sorry, Adam, with getting everything back to normal?
Yeah, I think it's always a work in progress, right? My dad texted me after game 1 and was like, that was, pretty good for not seeing live pitching for 18 months, and kind of put it, in perspective for me a little bit. So we're going to keep building. So far, I feel pretty normal for, being 4 games in, which I think is a good thing. Not too much extra thought about the knee or, what am I supposed to be doing in this situation. We got a great staff, a great medical staff that's gotten me prepared through spring to just take the season head on like I normally would. So that's what we're going to continue to try to do.
Right over here, left.
Christian, I'm curious on kind of your relationship with Bob Uecker. He's back for another season, kind of in a reduced role, but just to see him at the ballpark, and I think it's his 54th season calling games here. So just kind of like your relationship and having him back at the ballpark, whether that's for the organization or just kind of like the fans here.
Yeah, it's always great to have Uecker around, and I've gotten to know him fairly well over the last 7 years. I think each year we've gotten closer, and anytime you hear from him, whether it's via text or just seeing him in person at the ballpark, I think it makes everybody's day better. I think he loves being around the team, and we love having him. So he's obviously a baseball legend, a Brewer legend, and it doesn't really it wouldn't feel right if he wasn't around. So we love having him, and excited to see him back at the ballpark.
Lance, up top.
For both of you guys, you're veterans. You've played under different coaches, different managers, whatever. We've only seen a glimpse of, Murph's comedy act, Dave Chappelle, Will Ferrell, whatever. Does that help you in your job? Does it loosen things up? I don't think he's that way 24/7, but maybe pull the curtain back and just let us know how. I see you laughing, Christian. So what is it like for you guys?
Well, I call him Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball because that's kind of just him, But he's great, I think he's been around obviously every year that I've been here, just in the bench coach role. But he keeps it light, He's intense too, He demands a lot out of his players, and he expects you to conduct yourself and play in a certain way. But he also keeps it light, which is important over a 6-month season where there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be great stretches. There's going to be some tough stretches. And, I think he's the same guy always. I think you guys all know that from having interacted with him. It's like he's not changing. What you see is what you get, and how he is with you guys is how he is with us. And I think guys really like playing for him, and they play hard for him. And it's been a great start for sure.
Sophia?
You guys know it's a long road ahead, but it's hard to sweep a team on the road, especially to start a season. So I guess for either of you to kind of have all phases go well, individually build some confidence, the young guys, build some confidence. How do you think that can help just a positive start and something to build off of?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, right? It's just the confidence part. There's so much talk, and you're envisioning what the season's going to be like in spring, and what we want to try to focus on coming out of the gate so we can get off to a good start. And it seemed like, we kind of checked every phase of the game in that series. Pretty relentless pressure from an offensive standpoint, and then, catching the ball and making pitches when we really needed to. Bending a little bit, I think's a good test for especially, a young team, but just to be able to keep on going and not, have that bend don't break mentality. I think we saw that a little bit in New York, and hopefully we can just take that confidence momentum right here at home and play the game we did there.
Steve?
Christian, I believe you had a couple steals over the weekend, and Brewers as a team had 8. Are you expecting this kind of aggressive approach in the base paths? Do you think that's going to be a season-long thing with this new manager, and just how do you like kind of this approach?
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be our style of baseball. I think that's kind of how our roster is constructed and how guys on our team can offensively play baseball. Each team's unique. Everybody has kind of a different skill set of how you're going to try and score runs and go about it. We're different than other teams in baseball, and that's not a bad thing. We just go about it a different way. And you play teams that are like that, and it's difficult to play because there's always pressure throughout the game, no matter who's on base, what inning it is, what situation. Like, there's always that threat out there, and just especially how the new rules are in baseball with the pickoffs and the pitch clock and that whole deal. So I think we'll have an aggressive brand of baseball. We're going to live and die by it, and we're gonna see how it turns out.
Lily?
Hey, Christian. Just regarding Jackson, how do you think he's handled just being here with you guys in the majors? And then what have you thought about his production in New York?
I think he's done really well. He's come up with a lot of hype and a lot of expectations, and that's not always easy to deal with as a young player. But I thought he did great in New York. It's huge to just get those first couple games out of the way and get them under your belt and just settle back in. And after today, you kind of get back in a regular season routine and you don't have the introductions and all the pageantry that comes around with opening day and the home opener. So for him, it's going to be probably nice to just settle in and play baseball. He's a really talented player, and we'll see how the season goes for him. But I've said since spring training, like, we just need him to be Jackson, like, whatever that is. Just be yourself, play your game, and don't really worry about the hype or having to be a certain kind of player. Just play and let everything take care of itself.
Jack in the center.
Christian, it's a little bit of a different look for you in the lineup this year. You spent most of the past 2 seasons hitting that leadoff spot, and now you've been hitting in that 3-hole so far. Is there a different mentality that comes with moving to that spot for you? Is it more so a matter of just doing what you've always done and not worrying so much about what slot you're in?
Yeah, I don't think anything really changes. The batting order is the batting order the first time through, and after that, it's kind of just where you come up in the inning. I've hit all over the lineup in my career. I've hit leadoff a bunch, hit second a bunch, hit third a bunch too. So I'm kind of used to wherever you're at, and like I said earlier, it's really just the first time through, and then it kind of picks up inning to inning, and the situations change kind of depending on the game. So definitely not a huge change.
Adam.
Reese, you're getting eyes on not just Chourio, but all of the Brewers' young players, even the second-year players, for the first time. Did anything stand out to you after watching a whole spring training and an opening series about the group as a whole, and even if any particular of those guys really opened your eyes that you didn't know about before?
Yeah, I think just as a whole, just the athleticism within the group is eye-popping, really. Christian talked about some of the speed that we may play with, some of the offensive pressure we might be able to apply to teams, and I think that's a real weapon, especially on the offensive side. But I think you kind of saw it also on the defensive side of the ball throughout the whole series in New York. Bryce is all over the field making plays. Not a ton of balls in the outfield dropped, and I think that's going to be a real weapon for us. So it's been impressive to watch, and I'm definitely still getting to know these guys as baseball players. I'm excited to see. I don't think anybody's rooting for anybody to fail, but you get a real look at a guy, and it's a big test when these guys go through a little bit of failure, like every player does, just to see how they respond. So I'm excited to see what comes for the rest of the year, but just the athleticism, I think, is what pops off the chart.
Couple of well-spoken guys right there. Rhys Hoskins, the new acquisition, first baseman designated hitter, and of course the veteran outfielder Christian Yelich. They mentioned the word team a few times. Good chance for us to say on this Fox Local special that we're happy to have our team in place and ready to go for the baseball season. You see Brandon Cruz, Lily Sau out at the ballpark. I'm here in studio. Mickey Leach, Tanner Hemker heading the photography for us out there at the ballpark. Mike Buda in the back. So it takes a collective effort, and that gets me to asking both of you, Brandon and Lily, about this team. The Brewers have been kind of a sum greater than the parts type organization for several seasons. Brandon, are we going to see that again this year?
Yeah, you will. You have to with a team like this, especially because of the way the payroll structure works. They're way at the bottom of Major League Baseball in terms of payroll. But at the same time, they put these position players or put players in the right position to have success. And you see that from the way they line up the middle. And now you add the speed of Chourio in right, and you have that veteran leadership with Yelich in left. Then you add the veteran of Rhys Hoskins, and all of a sudden you see all these pieces come together, and now it works out. And it works out well in that lineup. And that's where, you see Christian Yelich come through with 5 hits over the weekend and driving in runs. It was a huge part of their success there. Even though Rhys Hoskins left a number of guys on Sunday with the bases loaded by hitting into a double play and striking out, he still delivered a lot over that weekend as well. So what it is guys doing everything they're supposed to by getting on base, and then these other guys driving them in. And then on the other side, it's that speed and athleticism you heard Rhys Hoskins talking about that makes up for any kind of shortcomings that could come on the defensive side.
And then just adding on to that, in terms of the pitching rotation, right? You have Devin Williams, who's out for an extended time, so what do? It's kind of like a closer by committee. You have Admiral Uribe, and you have Yoel Payamps kind of holding down the 4th or the 9th inning. You have the setup guys as well. So everyone's kind of coming together, especially in the relievers and also the starters, to kind of figure out what their best pitching rotation is, especially in the bullpen now without Devin Williams. So all hands on deck approach there as well. So that kind of is just the theme of this team, right? Is everybody, a lot of youngsters, a lot of new faces just coming together as a team to hopefully win a lot of games.
And organizationally, the guys who are on the roster now know that many of the guys in AAA are going to get their opportunities as the summer goes along as well. The Brewers definitely work that Nashville-Milwaukee shuttle quite a bit, and they try to bring in players who have options, who can go to the minors, that sort of thing. So these 25 guys are not going to be the only 25 guys we see wearing Brewer uniforms this season. And the sweet two-tone Barrelman hats. Yeah, those look pretty good up there at the podium for Hoskins and Yelich and Murphy as well. It is the Fox 6 Blitz Instapoll. We're taking your answers here this afternoon, and we're going to ask you to scan the QR code on the screen or go to fox6now.com to participate. Where will the Brewers finish in the NL Central this season? Let's see where we're going with those answers as we continue on with this program on Fox Local. Where we're going next in this actual show, though, is Mark Attanasio, the Brewers owner. Brandon was mentioning the payroll discrepancy between the Brewers and other teams in Major League Baseball. Here's the man who's responsible for the finances of this organization, and he always speaks with passion on opening day. Mark Attanasio.
Happy opening day. Happy opening day. Bryce Terang asked me, "Is this really opening day?" Or I said, "Well, I guess it depends. When you're 3-0, it feels like maybe it's not. If we're 0-3, we would like to forget it and say, hey, opening day." But I think of it as opening day. So this is our group's 20th, our family and our investors group, 20th season, which we've talked about a little bit coming into this season. There's a lot of memories, starting with my dad, who used to sing the national anthem every year for 10 years, and also not only opening day, but opening of playoffs. And we had a ridiculous record with him in a good way. And Corey Hart wanted him to sing every playoff game, national anthem. That I don't think the juju on that would be the same. So it's a good day for me to reflect on all the good memories with him. It's a family day for us. I think we have upwards of well over maybe upwards of 20 people here in the family. So it's being involved with the club and the community here has been special for our family. And, it's a good chance to reflect not only on the success of the team, but you look at the ballpark here. I talked to Commissioner Seelig. Every opening day I call Commissioner Seelig. And he's teaching. He's still teaching. He's on his way, I think, to Madison. I said, "Isn't it snowing up there? What are you doing?" So I said, "Commissioner, God bless America, God bless you, and God bless our roof." And I told this to Rick Schlesinger, who said he might change the order on that. I think he was talking about the roof here. But we've had, wonderful public-private partnership with, the city, the county, the state, and several of the political leaders will be here today. If you look around versus, 20 years ago, what this facility looks like, it's unbelievable. The new scoreboards, if you all haven't seen them, are unbelievable. So I'm very proud about that and very thankful for the support we get broadly in the community to play here. So I think that's, in terms of what I'm thinking of or how I'm reflecting today, that's what's top of mind, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, Mark, welcome back.
Thank you.
Before my question, you're talking about 20 opening days. Do you remember your first season opening day in Pittsburgh?
Yes, and I didn't always go to the true opening day. I went to that one.
My favorite comeback from that was when you came down to the locker room afterwards because the Brewers won. Cirillo, I think, came back and had 2 hits, and they weren't going to let you in.
Yeah. So, I don't, when they give you these credentials, which I don't wear here, but I was very tentative as a new owner, And I'd show my credentials, like, oh, look at this, and nobody would believe that you own the team. So I had a little difficulty getting into the clubhouse there, getting into clubhouse in Cincinnati. You roll forward several years, and my younger son Mike, at the last minute, he was in Washington D.C., wanted to go to the game. He talked his way into the stadium at Nationals Park, and then just went straight to the clubhouse through all the private areas. Looked at the guy sitting in. It's always a security guy. And he looked at him and he said, I'm the owner's son. They waved him right in. So it's all about looking as you belong. But yeah, that was look. That whole first season was a blur. That I couldn't believe I owned a team. My dad that first year, by the way, Rick would remember this. That we were going to have him sing that national anthem, and he was up the line taking photos of the players. And you know, you're in a very tight timetable always to open a game, but especially opening day. And I couldn't find my dad. And Rick was thinking, I'm going to get fired. And he was up taking pictures of the players who were standing, because we're all fans in our family. So, you know, opening day is very, very special for me.
And now the business stuff. You know, we've talked all winter long about the upgrades and the funding and the packaging, and then you mentioned the roof in your opening statement. You know, that's not something that we have to talk about very often. Knock on wood. 20 years in, what is the set? How well maintained is that roof?
I'm going to look to Rick, who's got thumbs up. It's, you know, the way I could say I think it's well maintained is I haven't heard any issues on it. We did a lot of work with third-party consultants to make sure that over this next 20, 25 years that we think that the roof is operable and well functioning. And the early issues that we had with the wheels grinding on the curves, you know, the roof is special for many reasons, including it's not just a simple, you end up with an odd-shaped ballpark with your typical roof, and this comes up in sections. But Rip, so far so good?
Yeah, the Stadium District has done a great job in annual maintenance and repairs, and the engineering studies that were conducted say that with the continued maintenance that the district is going to do, that the roof should operate more than perfectly for the next generation.
And I think I botched my delivery of the question, just that we didn't hear a lot about a need to do anything with the roof when the reports came out last year, so that's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, so yeah, there wasn't a need, but so what the challenge in these, when you do these, you know, budgeting for infrastructure out 25 years is, you know, a little bit of an art, more of an art than a science. And you have to remember that you're budgeting, with the other nuance is that you're budgeting for something that's already 20 years old. So you're looking to budget for years, you know, age 20 to 45, not years 0 to 20. And the process was highly collaborative on this. Stadium District had their own consultants, and you know, you try to leave a little cushion in for unexpected events, but you can't say, well, who knows what's going to happen with the roof, so you know that can't be a very big number for that. And we'll be judicious in, you know, how we hope we can still play here after this, but I think that'll be the next generation's inquiry.
Adam?
Mark, can you talk about your agreement with Uke and how you see this season going? And is it time for, you know, the community to start to wrap their mind around the strange thought that, you know, there's a day where Uke isn't calling the games?
You know, Uke's in the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster for a reason. He's exceptional at his craft. It's not just the great stories he tells. I just did every year I go on TMJ radio and do a broadcast, and the lead-in for this year was running a lot of his great calls over the years, and there's a lot of great memories and a lot of great calls. Uke is very focused on always being at a Hall of Fame level. So he doesn't want to just be in the booth to be in the booth. and he's very mindful. And by the way, I say to him, you don't have to do the play-by-play for 9 innings. You can, 7 of the 9, you can do less. He sort of grumbles about that idea. I say, you could flip roles with Levering, and he could be play-by-play, and you could do more color. He doesn't want to talk about that. And so, what he wants to do is just see how it goes this year, and we'll see. He still may, for many years, especially when I first said, maybe you could slow down traveling, he would travel. And then he said, okay, I'm not going to travel. And then he still traveled. So it'll be his choice to do, and we'll see. I know he's announcing today, and his voice is as strong as ever, so it's not that. And I think, it's, he turned, he doesn't like us to talk about this either, but he turned, I think everybody knows now, he turned 90 on January 26th. And when we say happy birthday, Uke, he told Tyler, do not mention my age. And if you saw him in the clubhouse now talking to, the players, he certainly doesn't present at that age. And so we could add, if we're going to be blessing people today, I'd say, God bless Bob Uecker.
Boy, what a perfect note to end on with Mark Attanasio there. Always right with the world when the Brewers and baseball is back in Milwaukee, and with Bob Uecker behind the mic. We talk about a team approach on the field, and even with our program here, there's only one Bob Uecker, no question about it, and awesome to know that he'll be calling opening day action. We're getting closer and closer. Let's take a look at our Instapoll responses, and then we can hear from Brandon and Lily out at the ballpark, kind of to respond to that with their own thoughts. Where do you think the Brewers are going to finish in the NL Central this season? Well, first place wins out. Brandon and Lily, I'm not sure I would have expected that, but a nice opening weekend and some optimism probably factors into there. Well, I'll put it to you two. Lily, where are the Brewers going to finish this year in this division?
Well, maybe 1 and 2. I'm kind of, wondering kind of how they're going to hold up for the rest of the 159 plus games of the season. But I think maybe 1 or 2. I don't think that that's kind of an unrealistic expectation, at least not yet. So, what we're seeing so far, right, is everybody kind of coming together. The offense is really clicking so far early in the season. And again, we're going to get guys back from injury, see how they kind of fit back into the lineup and the rotation. So a lot of encouraging things happening for Milwaukee. But like you mentioned earlier in the show, this is still a very tough division. Craig Counsell and the Cubs will still remain competitive, and then you'll have the Pirates, the Reds, Cards, and all those other teams kind of jockeying it out for the tops of the division. But I don't think 1-2 would be unrealistic, Brandon.
Yeah, they're going to be competitive. I mean, it's really hard to stop these Pirates right now, who are 5-0 to start this season. But now that we get into the real part of the season, once April starts to get going and all that, I think we're going to see this true team. It's going to have its ups and downs, but I think they're going to be competitive. And I think what happens is we're going to see where they are in July. And if they really are within striking distance of winning this division, I wouldn't be surprised, because of where their payroll stands, that they bring in somebody to try to bring them over the top. So I do think this team's in it for the long haul this year, and especially once they got rid of Corbin Burns before the season, I think that kind of said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go for it, and we have this room in our salary structure to bring in somebody if we're competitive at that point. And that, to me, is what you're going to see. You're going to see a competitive team that most likely brings somebody in.
And they'll know they have Brandon Woodruff, at least theoretically, coming back a year from now to factor into this pitching rotation as well. It looks like, guys, you can throw your news reporter hats on. The parking app working out there? Folks getting into the parking lots okay?
No. Well, they're getting in, but the parking app is not working.
Oh, boy.
I had to use it to try to get into the lot where we park, and even though I have a media pass, I'm supposed to scan it, right? My phone right now is still spinning. I have yet to get the page to be able to put the information in at this point, and I know a number of other people have had that issue too. Looking out in front of us at this parking lot, cars are still coming in. People are still walking up to the stadium. Obviously not as much tailgating with all this, but the parking app as a personal thing has been a struggle today, to say the least.
Well, Lily had the right approach. If you get there at 6 in the morning, you don't have to deal with some of the same issues.
Then you get in.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Jacob Junis, Louis Varland. What do you know about either of those two guys?
Well, Louis Varland, I'll tell you, start with that. He's the pitcher for the Twins. Very young guy. He's only pitched in about a couple of dozen games over his career, but he earned this spot by pitching so well this spring training. That's sometimes hard to do for a starting pitcher, but he didn't allow any runs in spring training. So as a young guy, we'll see what he can do against the Brewers.
Yeah, and Jacob Junis, we heard Pat Murphy talk about him, a veteran pitcher. He's been around the block, so he knows what he's doing, but a new face for Brewers fans to really embrace. And in terms of getting a start, I think, in years past, you've seen pitchers that fans have been kind of well aware of in the Brewers organization getting that start on their home opener. So a new face for them, kind of just to see what he can do and see if he can kind of be one of those 4 or 5 guys in the starting rotation.
Well, speaking of seeing things, you can barely see American Family Field there. That's what the weather's like on opening day. Thanks for joining us on Fox Local.